It was just another night in the big city, a place where dreams can come true or turn into nightmares fast. The sun had just gone down when everything went horribly wrong. A young woman was full of life one minute, gone the next. It was a scary reminder that even when things feel safe, they can change in a heartbeat.
3 weeks ago, a businesswoman, Jean Bradley, was murdered beside her car in a suburb of West London. The tragedy made front-page headlines because it seemed so similar to another notorious and unsolved murder that happened 2 years earlier. The victim then was Penny Bell. In fact, detectives are reasonably confident there's no link whatsoever.
I last spoke to Jean on the Sunday before she was killed.
Hey guys! Welcome back to your go-to place of dark and captivating true crime stories. We're here at Crimeco to unearth the mysteries that haunt us all, bringing you the stories that'll leave you intrigued. If you dig our content, hit that subscribe button and smash that like button. It helps us keep bringing the chills. Now, grab a drink, snuggle up, and get ready to crack open another crazy case with your favorite crew. Alright then, let's dive in. The nightmare unfolded on a quiet street in Acton, a regular neighborhood in West London. Acton wasn't fancy, but it had its charm with leafy streets and houses with gardens. Carberry Avenue, in particular, was a peaceful place, full of families and friendly faces. But that night, everything changed. This quiet street, with its tidy houses and friendly vibe, became ground zero for a crime that ripped the whole neighborhood apart. It wasn't safe anymore. The shock was everywhere, and it wouldn't leave anytime soon. As the police dug into the case, even the familiar places started to seem scary. Every corner, every alleyway, they all looked different now. The quiet streets that used to feel comforting now held a dark secret. The silence was deafening, a constant reminder of the horrible things that had happened right there. In the middle of all this chaos lived Jean Bradley. She wasn't famous or anything, but her life was full in its own way. Then, this awful thing happened, and her story became one with the crime. Everyone wanted to know why this terrible thing happened to such a normal person. Jean Bradley was a fighter. Born in the small town of Crowthorne in 1945, she grew up with her parents, James and Elizabeth Phillips, who taught her the value of hard work and never giving up. Even as a kid, Jean had a drive to succeed and a hunger for learning. Her family was her rock, and they instilled in her the importance of following her dreams. That drive led Jean to become a successful businesswoman. She helped companies move to new offices, and she was really good at it. Everyone wanted her on their team. But Jean's life wasn't all about work. She had a loving partner, Nicholas Osborne, who was a teacher. They were a perfect match, sharing dreams and building a life together. Jean had no idea her life was about to take a terrible turn. One day in March, something awful happened that would change everything. Her story became one of tragedy, leaving a scar on a community that couldn't understand why such a good person could be taken in such a brutal way. It was March 25th, 1993, and Jean Bradley was just finishing up work in London. The 47-year-old businesswoman hopped on the subway to head home, a normal routine. After getting off at Acton Town Station, she grabbed a quick drink, something to unwind after a long day. People saw her walking through the park on her way home. Then, everything went horribly wrong. As Jean approached her car parked on Carberry Avenue, a street she knew well, someone jumped out of nowhere and attacked her. Jean screamed for help, her cries echoing in the night. A brave carpenter who saw the whole thing stopped his car and chased after the attacker through the streets. The attacker yelled back a creepy threat, like, "You're next." Even though the carpenter chased him and paramedics rushed Jean to the hospital, it was too late. Jean died from 8 stab wounds, inflicted with a big, scary knife. It was a shocking and brutal attack that left everyone stunned. The chase after Jean's attacker was like something out of a movie. The carpenter who saw the whole thing wouldn't let the attacker get away. He jumped in his car and chased him through the streets, determined to stop him. A woman in another car even saw the attacker's face as they zoomed by. The chase went on for a while, twisting and turning through different streets. The attacker seemed to be getting tired, and the carpenter was gaining on him. But then, on Church Road, the attacker kind of vanished. Luckily, someone watching from a nearby apartment building saw where he went. The attacker ducked into a doorway on Ragley Close and ripped off his hat. They saw he had short black hair and a cream jacket. Another witness noticed something else. The attacker walked flat-footed, which could be a big clue. Finally, the chase ended when the attacker disappeared onto Buckland Walk, just a mile or so from where Jean was attacked. Even though they couldn't catch him, all these witnesses gave the police a pretty good picture of who they were looking for. Jean's murder rocked Acton. It was a quiet town, and suddenly it was all over the news, being compared to other scary crimes. But the police knew this wasn't connected. There was no clear reason why someone would attack Jean, and that freaked everyone out even more. The police were working around the clock to find the killer. They went on TV shows like Crime Watch, asking anyone who saw anything to come forward. Witnesses described the attacker as creepy and strange, messy hair, acting odd, like maybe he had problems or used drugs. The cops even thought he might shop at thrift stores because his clothes looked mismatched. Then, they found a tiny piece of plastic at the crime scene with a weird logo on it. It wasn't much, but it was a lead. This little piece of plastic could take them all over the country, from wherever it was made to wherever it ended up on that terrible night. The police wouldn't stop until they found Jean's killer and brought him to justice. They wanted peace for Jean's family and for the whole scared town of Acton. There was a flicker of hope in the Jean Bradley case almost 5 months after her murder. In August of 1993, the police arrested a suspect, 39-year-old Frank Marnell from Nordholt. People in Acton were desperate for this to be the answer, for someone to be held accountable for this terrible crime. But the road to justice can be long and bumpy. Marnell had a history of mental health problems and drug abuse. He said he didn't do it at first, but then later said he couldn't remember for sure. It was confusing. Then came a key moment. The brave carpenter who chased the attacker after Jean was murdered stepped forward. He was absolutely sure Marnell was the guy. "The second I walked in, he looked right at me," he said. This, along with some other shaky identifications from witnesses, seemed to strengthen the case against Marnell. But in a surprising turn of events, the judge threw the case out in November of 1993. There just wasn't enough solid evidence. The detectives were stunned and frustrated. Witness accounts didn't totally line up, and Marnell came up with alibis that created doubt. The case against him fell apart. The police promised not to give up. They would keep looking for answers, for a way to make sure Jean got the justice she deserved. Even years after Jean Bradley's murder, people couldn't forget. It was a mystery that hung over the town, a constant reminder of a life cut short. In 2000, a newspaper article pointed out how many murder cases the police weren't solving, and Jean's case was right there on the list. It was a wake-up call, a reminder that catching killers isn't always easy, especially when they're good at hiding in the shadows. Then, science offered a sliver of hope. In 2001, there was talk of using fancy new technology to re-examine evidence in cold cases, including Jean's. Maybe these new tools could find something the police had missed before. But the biggest twist came in 2008. A man named Robert Napper was finally caught for the murder of Rachel Nichol. This case was shockingly similar to Jean's, and it made detectives wonder if Napper could be connected to other unsolved murders, like the ones that took the lives of Claire Tillman and Penny Bell. Suddenly, Jean's case was back in the news. Experts and armchair detectives everywhere were poring over the details, trying to find connections and solve the puzzle. With each new development, the hope for answers flickered a little brighter. In 2009, a book called Killer in the Shadows came out. It was a scary but fascinating look into the mind of Robert Napper, the guy who killed Rachel Nichol. The book also talked about how hard it was to solve Jean's case. A few years later, in 2013, there was a TV show called Killers Behind Bars that looked into whether Napper could be connected to Jean's murder. The show made people think about the case again, and it gave hope that maybe, just maybe, something new could be discovered. Even though Jean's case is still unsolved, her story reminds us of the terrible things people can do, but also the strength of communities that come together in hard times. Her name will always be a symbol of the fight for justice, even when it takes a long, long time. Jean Bradley's story is a tough one to swallow. It's a reminder that even on a normal day, things can take a horrible turn. Jean had a good life, full of hard work and dreams. But it all ended way too soon in a violent attack that nobody could understand. This act of cruelty tore through the quiet town of Acton. It wasn't safe anymore, and the fear spread like a sickness. But even in the face of this tragedy, there were glimmers of hope. People who saw the attack chased after the guy, desperate to stop him. The police never gave up searching for answers. And the community came together, refusing to let this crime define them. Years later, Jean's case is still unsolved, a mystery that haunts everyone who knew her. But her story is about more than that. It's about the darkness that exists in the world, but also the amazing strength people can find. It's a reminder that even when we don't get all the answers, we can still keep searching for the truth and for justice. In the end, Jean's life may have been cut short, but her memory will never fade. It's a reminder that every person's story matters, and that even in the darkest times, there's always a light that shines through. Alright guys, before you dash off into the night, don't forget to hit that like button. It lets us know you're digging the content, and that keeps the creepy cases coming your way. While you're at it, smash that subscribe button and ring that notification bell. You don't want to miss our next dive into the mysterious unknown. Thanks for joining us on this journey, and we'll see you on the flip side for another mind-blowing case. Until then, stay curious,